Welcome to Digital Ship webinar. Today's topic is easier ways to manage mooring equipment compliance with digital technology. And we have two guest speakers with us, both from maritime software company OceanManager. Please welcome Captain Steve Blair, who is the board advisor, and Stylianos Dimas, commercial director. OceanManager is sponsoring this webinar, and all of you will have a chance to ask them questions, simply typing them to a Q&A box. And we will start off with Carl Jeffrey, founding editor of Digital Ship, who will prepare us for the discussion. Let's go, Carl.
So the subject today, we're going to talk about making it easier to manage mooring ropes and how we can use digital technology to help. Whether you think much about mooring ropes, I guess that depends on what your role in the industry is, but I'll give some background in case you don't. So there's a DNV quoted statistics from the European Harbour Masters Committee, which shows that 95% of personal injury incidents on ships are caused by ropes and wires. 60% of these injuries happen during mooring operations. And also the Australian Maritime Safety Authority reported over 220 mooring related incidents between 2010 and 2014, and 22% of those ended up with injury. The Oil Companies International Marine Forum, OCIMF, introduced the fourth version of its mooring equipment guidelines in 2018. That's called MEG4. So that says that you've got to have a mooring system management plan. So that followed a near accident on a tanker when a seafarer was hit by a snap mooring rope, which springs back with great force. They call that snapback. And one of the recommendations they make is that ropes are replaced up when they reach 75% of their expected total life. So to do that, you've got to monitor how much the ropes are being used. You've got to know when you're coming up to 75%, you've got to buy new ropes and install them in time. You've got to train crew and ensure that crew are standing in places where they're not going to be hit by snap ropes. So there's a lot to manage and track, and a lot of companies have been doing it on paper. So we'll talk about how we can do this with digital technology. So the first talk is from Captain Steve Blair. He's Managing Director of Maritime Management Systems Consultancy Epic Marine Services, and he's a board advisor to OceanManager. He's a former Director of Business Development with the American Bureau of Shipping. So he's going to explain the risks with mooring lines and what companies need to manage. Then we have a talk from Stylianos Dimas, the Commercial Director of OceanManager. He's a former business development manager of a number of maritime software companies, and he's going to explain how we can use digital technology to manage this. So that they make software you can use on board ships. There's an app which can run on the ship's mobile phone, sending data to the cloud. You can send the data later if you don't have the connectivity immediately available. You can upload photographs of the ropes when they're inspected. You can upload photos of any signs of wear, and the shipping companies can see the cloud data and monitor what's going on. So I'd like to invite Captain Blair to give the opening talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I'll just share my screen with everybody so you can see what I'm talking about. A few slides to share with you as we go through here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world joining us. And thank you for being here for this presentation today on managing compliance with MEG4 through digital technology. As Carl mentioned, I run my own marine consultancy, Epic Marine Services Limited, and I also act as a board advisor to OceanManager Inc, where my primary role there is ensuring that the digital technology we use is suitable for use on board ship and for the seafarers on board. What I'm going to start is by talking about the regulatory landscape that's in place for mooring and anchoring equipment in the shipping industry today. We have SOLAS, Safety of Life at Sea Convention, which I'm sure most of those listening will be familiar with. There's just been some fairly recent changes at MEC 102, which was held in November last year, where new safe mooring requirements were adopted. This is an amendment to SOLAS regulation, or Chapter 2.1 Regulation 3.8, which has been around for quite some time now, there has been requirements since 2007. This will supersede those requirements and they're expected to enter into force in January 2024. Not only have OCIMF that Carl was talking about, the Oil Companies International Marine Forum, brought out their guide, but SOLAS, which is the actual regulatory side of our industry, they have requirements in place for the design of mooring arrangements, selecting appropriate mooring equipment and fittings, inspection and maintenance of mooring equipment, including the lines, as well as revised guidance on shipboard towing and mooring equipment. So the industry is moving in the general direction of enhancing the safety of mooring operations on board and improving the safety of our seafarers on board. As Carl mentioned, there have been a lot of incidents with mooring lines, and incidents of mooring lines breaking in port has led to numerous fatalities throughout the year. So we're not only talking about injuries to seafarers, as you'll see in a slide later on, 14%, which is quite a high percentage of accidents with mooring ropes, lead to fatality. Mooring is very much a high-risk operation. If you have a well-trained crew with well-maintained equipment, though, it's something that shouldn't present too much of a problem. At the end of the day, ships have been mooring and unmooring since time immemorial. Common causes of accidents are inadequate understanding of mooring practices, unattended mooring lines. In other words, lines are not slacked off or heaved up whilst vessels are alongside, as changes in the tide or changes in the displacement of the vessel dictate. Retirement criteria of mooring lines. Ship owners obviously want to get as much life out of the mooring lines as possible from a cost-saving perspective. But with MEG4 now, we've got some specific criteria where retirement of mooring lines can take place. So this MEG4 came out, as Carl mentioned, in 2018. We had MEG3 before that, which had been in place for quite a number of years. MEG4 has changed dramatically. There's a lot of new stuff within there, which we now need to follow. But at the end of the day, the regulations are effectively those that are in SOLAS. The requirements of OCIMF are recommendations, but of course every company that wants to work with the major oil companies do endeavour to comply with the recommendations that they bring out. The new chapters and key changes in MEG4 include enhanced guidance for the purchasing, condition monitoring and retiring of mooring lines and tails, enhanced guidance on documentation of mooring equipment, ensuring that we have the proper certification from the manufacturers of the mooring ropes. Human factors in mooring design, particularly for new vessels. When we design new vessels, ensuring that the people on board are able to operate the mooring equipment safely. A new chapter on jetty design and fittings. At the end of the day, the mooring lines go onto the jetty, and how they manage their end of the operation. So there's a new chapter on ship-shore interface, and a chapter on alternative technologies. And the new guidelines require each vessel to have an adequate mooring system management plan and a line management plan. Excuse me. And the guidance within MEG4 will enhance the safety of mooring from the design of mooring arrangements, using a human-centered design approach. At the end of the day, this is all related to human factors and ensuring that the incidents on board vessels from moorings operations reduce or are removed. Contents of a mooring system management plan are all of these items: general ship particulars, mooring equipment design philosophy, a detailed list of the mooring equipment, inspection, maintenance and retirement strategies, risk and change management, safety of personnel and human factors, records and documentation. Now, this is one of the main benefits of what we at OceanManager have done, is allowing you to keep all the records and documentation required by MEG4 and required by your mooring system management plan in one place, rather than have different files and different locations around the vessel. And it's also easy to share information between the ship and the shore, rather than having to send documentation back and forth. The line management plan, that is probably the biggest benefit that we see now, is to manage the operation and retirement of mooring lines and tails. So we need to specify in the line management plan the retirement criteria with the assumptions and evaluations methods that we've used to determine that retirement criteria. And so each line management plan is specific to an operator and ship type. We're going to have different line management plans depending on the ship type, depending on the type of terminals they call at, depending on the number of lines that they use in each terminal. So the line management plan will include records of mooring hours, the number of hours that the lines were in use. It will have line inspection records that you've checked the mooring lines at the stated frequency and that they're fit for continuing service. The retirement criteria, when you retire lines, when you take them out of service and replace them with new lines, any test reports that you have from having lines tested, and the manufacturer's guidance and recommendations. A lot of the major mooring rope manufacturers have come on board with this, and in their literature that they produce, they have a lot of guidance and recommendations in accordance with MEG4 for the management of your mooring ropes, wires and tails on board. We also have requirements for mooring, again in TMSA3, the Tanker Management Self-Assessment Program, that ship owners again subscribe to from OCIMF. So there's an added incentive for ship owners to comply there, because during inspections and audits that they have from the major oil company, the inspectors and auditors will look at the procedures they have in place and how they manage their mooring ropes and lines. So the procedures should cover the full range of mooring anchoring activities, including any specific operations such as single buoy moorings or ship-to-ship transfers, which have particular requirements for mooring. Mooring and anchoring equipment effectively inspected, maintained, tested and documented. Operations are planned and safely executed, especially at terminals that have not been previously visited. If you go to a new terminal for the first time, you want to know something about that terminal, what you can expect there, what the tidal range at the terminal is, how many mooring ropes you need to put out, and ensuring that the vessel plans their visit effectively. Most importantly, that vessel personnel receive familiarization, training, and mentoring. This is one of the main methods by which we help to reduce the risk of accidents on board. As I said earlier, compliance is assured by having a verification and audit plan in place so that you regularly internally audit your mooring and anchoring operations, and that they will be externally audited from time to time. Following on from TMSA, which is the company management of operations, then you have the SIRE VIQ7, which is the current version of the SIRE reporting system, the ship inspection and reporting system, that again is an OCIMF requirement, which contains comprehensive requirements for mooring equipment documentation and management, mooring procedures, mooring equipment, anchoring equipment, single point moorings, and emergency towing arrangements. So as you can see within the regulatory landscape, both statutory and voluntary that we have in place in the industry at the moment, there is a great deal of information and requirements out there. And it's very difficult to assimilate all this information in one place. So this is what we've done at OceanManager, is to make everybody's life more easier by ensuring that you have an online portal and an app that you can use to manage your mooring procedures, mooring equipment. My colleague, Stylianos Dimas from OceanManager, will be talking about the actual product that OceanManager have produced during his presentation, which will follow mine. We'll look at some statistics, industry statistics, injury statistics, and you can see here that a lot of the equipment failure, a lot of the failure is by ropes parting or being hit by ropes and wires that haven't parted. Hit by parted ropes and wires where they've failed, whether they've snapped. We can look at the causes. During ship-to-ship transfer, there's a lot of abrasion on mooring ropes, so there's a much more risk. The wash of other ships passing can cause a lot of movement in mooring ropes if they're not properly tended. Tug operations. So you can see there is quite a lot. And then when we look at injuries from mooring incidents, I thought this was a very interesting statistic. You know, you look at the some of the minor percentages, if you like. I wouldn't like to say any of them are where somebody gets injured are minor, but eye, foot, thigh, ankle, wrist, 1%. Pelvis, face, chest, hand, shoulder, knee, 3%, arm, head, multiple injuries. But as I mentioned, the two major issues here are, or three major issues are legs, because I guess when mooring ropes part, when they snap back, leg height is probably where a lot of the impact would be felt. They can lead to death. In 14% of the cases, and back injuries. So 50% approximately of all injuries with mooring incidents are quite severe, as you can see. Here's some headlines that have been there in the industry. It doesn't make very pleasant reading, and this is what we're trying to prevent by monitoring our mooring equipment and ensuring that it's safe for use at all times. Snapback zones. There's a lot of talk about snapback zones within the industry, and there's been a bit of a change in MEG4 regarding snapback zones. Snapback, also known as recoil, is when the tendency of the broken ends of a line that's been under tension is to draw back rapidly after a line break. Obviously, the snapback is going to be in two different directions, but it does present a significant risk to the safety of personnel working in mooring areas on a ship, on the tug, or on the quayside. Measures to manage the risk of snapback include safe access to winch controls, maybe some form of protection around the winch controls, position supervisors and ship and shore personnel with unobstructed views of the operation, provide operating and personnel management procedures, provide adequate line of sight to the whole mooring deck workspace, use lines with the most direct leads possible from winch to the shipside fair lead. What we don't want to do is change the direction of mooring ropes too often, as that can cause less effect and weaken them over a period of time. Minimize lines that traverse the deck area, minimize the use of pedestal rollers because they do cause a lot of abrasion on mooring ropes. Avoid sharp angled leads and use personnel trained in mooring operations. Brief personnel on the planned mooring operation, as I said, particularly if you're going to a terminal or jetty that you're not familiar with. Snapback zones. Previously, you used to see snapback areas highlighted, painted with yellow and black hazard stripes. It's very difficult to identify which are snapback areas and which areas snapback applies to. So the general consensus within MEG4 and in the industry now is saying that the whole area of where the mooring operation takes is at risk of snapback increasing. And marking snapback danger zones tends to create a false sense of safety for personnel that are standing outside the marked zone. So if we consider the whole area at risk of snapback and mark the area and train our personnel accordingly, then hopefully that will lead to reduced incidents. Moving on to the OceanManager solution briefly now before I hand over to Stylianos. The problem statement, if you like, is the business challenges that ship owners and ship managers face with respect to the management of mooring operations on board. The solution, as we see it, is a digitized mooring system management plan integrated with consulting solutions to manage mooring operations on board and enable effective monitoring ashore, so that the people both on board and ashore are all aware of the condition of the mooring lines and what's going on with them. The result of doing that, we believe, will help to achieve compliance, improve safety, and achieve cost efficiency. This is just a schematic of compliance with MEG4. Should lead to TMSA compliance, digitizing the fleet mooring data makes it very easy to retrieve the data and the information when requested to during such things as SIRE and CDI inspections and audits, inspection of mooring equipment and maintaining records of it and any reports of damage of mooring, life cycle management. You can use the data to have data-driven decisions for the procurement of equipment, cost efficiency, identifying training needs and real-time updates. And all of that will hopefully result in reduction in mooring incidents, fleet alerts, deviations, and help to maintain the safety of seafarers on board the ships. A couple of last-minute slides before I hand over. This was a statement made by David Nichols, Senior Loss Prevention Executive at the UK P&I Club. Mooring, and more particularly the handling of mooring ropes, is an ancient skill. It's not something new that has adapted to larger ships and scaled up mooring machinery. But the basic risks and exposure to hazardous situations remain. So we all have to be aware, those on board, of what's going on around us, be aware of our surroundings, and ensure we carry out our operations safely. We've just had the Day of the Seafarer. That was celebrated on the 25th of June, just a week or two ago. So at the end of the day, the goal of every seafarer when they go on board is to return home safely. So thank you very much for listening. I trust you found the presentation useful, and I'll now hand back to Carl, who in turn will no doubt hand over to Stylianos.
Oh, very good. Okay, so I'd like to welcome Stylianos Dimas, who's the founder of OceanManager, which is
Thank you very much. Commercial director, I'm not the founder, but I am part of the team. Thank you very much, however. So what we just saw is basically, Captain Steve gave us a very thorough description about the regulation and what we must be careful about. And this is basically what OceanManager is doing. We have a collaboration with a lot of experts, a vast network of mariners who help us be more than just a software house. So what we do has actual application in the industry, and we invest heavily in the very user-friendly interface in order to make it easy for people on board the vessel to use it and not require an actual IT degree to just do their day-to-day. So allow me to also share my screen. I will briefly go through a presentation mentioning some of what OceanManager is doing, and then jump into the application itself, the solution, the approach that OceanManager is using in order to help minimize the risks and the incidents that we're facing. So, first of all, there we are. So OceanManager has about a 10-year history. Can you see my screen or no?
No, not yet.
Not yet. So I think I didn't do that. Just a second.
It's getting right. Yeah.
All right. All right. There we are.
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So OceanManager has a 10-year history. We have about 1,200 vessel installations around the world. We recently made an opening in the European market. Our services are mostly known in the other side of the pond. And we have physical branches in the United States where the headquarters are established, in Greece, and we have the technical hub in India and the commercial hub in Singapore. We also collaborate with a lot of agents around the world, and we like to partner with people expert in their fields because they help us get outside knowledge. And of course, they also have the opportunity to promote their services through OceanManager's network. The company has built its reputation with our MHSEQ software, where basically counters the health, safety, environmental, and quality issues. It's a document controller. We have a very intuitive work rest hours module, which you can update the hours with QR code. And the mooring system actually plugs into that platform. Also, we have a remote audit solution, a fleet management, which covers PMS, procurement, crew management, and then, of course, dashboards in regards to parsing information from our own or third-party applications, and we help you step by step in order to create meaningful dashboards in order to get actionable data. What we try to do is provide a simple setup that people can run on board the vessels without any need of an expert, a reliable synchronization application. Everything is hosted in the cloud. We like to integrate with other people, so other applications that are meaningful to our clients, we always investigate a positive collaboration integration. And of course, we try to apply, as the new trend indicates, AI solutions that can help become more than just a reporting solution, but also a predictive solution. Having said that, we're going to jump to a familiar slide that Captain Steve Blair also demonstrated. So in our quest, in order to help our clients counter their issues, and mooring is one of those, we have the problem that was already explained. The solution is to help you move forward from just scanning papers or filling Excel spreadsheets, sending them back to shore or the vessel, and sometimes getting lost into the versioning, and having as an end result to achieve the compliance, safety, and of course, cost efficiency. The problem statement, however, has more depth into it. So if we go to that slide, you can see that, first of all, we begin with what the name of the webinar implies, MEG4 compliance. So we need to demonstrate compliance. We have to be careful in order to avoid injuries or fatalities, which of course leads to cost of human life or financial, and thereof also reputation loss. Unorganized data. Shipping companies have been using one system or the other for more than 10 years now, but the difference of systems and how the data are structured make this treasure of data kind of obsolete, because it's unorganized, it has a lot of trash, if you like. So what we're trying to do is we try to help you organize them. And organized data gives you a better pattern of recognition in past and current events in order to help you predict the future. And of course, this system will also help you plan your vetting, port stage inspections, and all mooring-related deficiencies. Moving forward, our system will help the mariner monitor the current condition, the running hours of the moor equipment, keep themselves a step ahead, ensure less incidents, reduce costs, and of course, minimize life-threatening accidents. The information is available on shore and on board the vessel, keeping everyone on the same page. And the important thing that I would like to point out is that it's not just a software. We also bundle our services with experts in their field that they have been implementing mooring management plans for years, and they can help, first of all, implement new management plans on board the vessels, update existing ones, or help you implement the system on board the vessel. So we don't expect the client to do all the work. We have people who actually do that for a living, and they can help you and take the burden off your hands. The holistic approach in our solutions has as an end result, of course, you can see here the compliance, the TMSA compliance. Captain Steve went through it earlier on. I'm going a little faster because I don't like to repeat myself and the things we have already said and burden our crowd. And our approach over here is basically replacing that situation. So forms like that are familiar to all. It's what you have been doing right now, either in paper format, in Excel format. These have been filled, they have been sent on board the vessel, and they can be easily exchanged with that. So it's a cloud solution hosted on Amazon Cloud. It will immediately indicate the non-compliance, retirement extensions, inspections overdue, damage reports. You have analytics. You can assign an inspection to one of your crew members. You can attach photographs along with the actual investigation in order to see that everything is as you would expect it them to be. You have access to your management plan online. You don't have to look for paper versions of it all the time, and you can maintain your archive for years and years to come. And of course, if something is lost, you don't have a local database to worry about. Everything is hosted on the cloud, and basically it's not a problem. Moving forward, you can see over here the best particulars. So everything is imported during the configuration of the system in a very easy interface, very clean interface. As I said, there has been software around the sea industry for years, but ended up becoming overcomplicated and people don't like to use them all the time. So here we're making a different approach, back to simplicity. Just stick to the information that matters, and everybody are happy to use the system. Here you can see the inventory management. What we're trying to do is you can import any type of mooring equipment, of rope, either via our import mechanism or the traditional data entry. And eventually you can build your own database. And what we aim to do is eventually become a supplier's database that you can just select from a drop-down what you're using, and the system will just get the details of the mooring equipment from the database itself, saving you time and trouble. We have the rope details. You can see where it was used, the date, how many hours. This will immediately add and do the formulas in the background and inform you immediately when there is no compliance anymore. And it will provide, of course, alerts, notifications. Here you can see the port operation logs with historical records, incidents, damage data, port records, everything. You can see how sleek it is, how clean. And besides adding and exporting information in a nice customized reports, you also have some very meaningful dashboards that give you actionable information, and you can immediately identify the non-compliance that the system will just display in the graphs over here. Now, as I said, the system is cloud hosted. There is nothing to install anywhere. And basically, a traditional method of record keeping will become just easy as checking Facebook on your mobile phone, I guess. So that's on me. Captain Steve, do you want to add something?
No, I've got nothing to add, Stylianos. Very useful presentation about the actual product itself. And I think from the screenshots that you used there, people could see how simple it is to use and how much data they can get from it.
So I would like also to add that the information that is provided, and either in the forms of the dashboards or just an exported report, is on a fleet or vessel level. So you can immediately see on the scale that you wish to be informed, not just drop data to you and just leave it to you to sort them out. So that's on my side. Carl.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So we're now going into the Q&A part of the webinar. So if you want to ask questions in the Q&A box, so I think Steve is able to take questions about the mooring guidelines and rules, and Stylianos probably more questions about the software. I've got some questions myself, so I can ask them, but if you want to ask questions, I'm sure that'd be better. But one of the first intriguing things for Steve, so this statistic, I mean, it's on the DMV website, so it must be true, but it's saying 95% of personal injury incidents are caused by ropes and wires, and 60% of these injuries happen during mooring operations. I mean, that's basically saying all personal injury operations on ships are caused by ropes, and the problems like slips and trips are almost eliminated. Is that, I don't know if they mean just...
I think what they're talking about then, 95% of personal injury incidents are caused by ropes and wires. That's from the European Harbour Masters Committee. So therefore, it's talking about vessels when they are in port, shall we say, or within the port limits. where mooring operations obviously take place. There's many other statistics for vessels when they're at sea where generally slips, trips, falls tend to take the lead in statistics. But certainly when vessels are in port and engaged in mooring operations, the incident rate is far higher than it should be.
So it's fair to say this is the biggest safety issue in shipping, in ports at least. Yeah, yeah. And then the other thing I was wondering, so I mean, so much of the deck is a potential snapback zone, as you showed. I mean, you're also saying people should be watching the wires. I don't know if it happens so quickly that you couldn't actually see anything happening, or
it's when a rope snaps back. Yes, it's very rapid and very quick, which is why everybody should be aware of what's going on around them. And I think that's one of the main issues, keeping the number of people in the mooring area to the minimum required, depending on, obviously not compromising safety, but having the minimum number of people at risk at any one time, and just being aware of what's going on around you. But well-trained, experienced seafarers are aware of these things, or should be aware of these things. And I think if companies implement an effective training program for seafarers so that they are more aware of the risks involved in mooring operations, then that will help us to reduce the number of incidents.
Oh, and this is still the state-of-the-art technology. I mean, I was watching a Thames clipper on the Thames yesterday. They're still like through a rope to moor it, but I guess that's the only way we have of doing this.
Yes, at the end of the day, you've got to get the eye of the rope, if you like, from the ship to the mooring bollard. Different ports, different terminals have different ways of doing that. Then it's up to the ship to tension the mooring line correctly, and then to monitor it whilst it's in position and adjust it accordingly.
Yeah, so it is a solvable problem if we follow all these procedures. It's just
yes, it is. I sailed at sea for 18 years, and I can't remember one incident where we had a serious accident with mooring operations. So okay. Yes, it is a manageable situation. Why so many incidents are occurring, I believe it's something the industry, the ship owners, the ship operators need to look at closely in terms of, again, training and awareness.
Okay, so I'll just to the audience again, so please put your questions in the Q&A box if you want to get into the discussion if we're handling this properly and if there's better ways we can to manage it. So I've got a couple of questions for Stylianos. So in terms of making it that it's easier than spreadsheets, I guess it's something you can understand intuitively, but companies may say, well, I can also have a spreadsheet on the cloud. Is there an easy way you can answer how people, why this makes it easier? Because it's much easier to see graphically what you're doing and this kind of thing.
Well, it's in an Excel spreadsheet, which is the most usual way, right? For example, I can't recall the number of people who are actually doing even their PMS on Excel right now, because the process itself is mandatory, but nobody forces you to use the software. But you don't have everything in a uniform format. You put something in an Excel, it can be mistyped, you can lose a version. So everything being in a central location where, as real time as possible, the office has a view of what's happening on the fleet or the vessel can actually help make the situation more manageable, as Steve Blair said earlier on. Because wherever there is a gray area, problems occur.
Okay, so this question here is from Michael Ewell. LinkedIn tells me he's a marine manager of TK Gas in Glasgow. So he's asking, what does your system do beyond the systems that the rope manufacturers do, which also include their expert review of the photographs, which I guess your system doesn't have?
Yes, exactly. So the photographs can be added, and along with any complementary documentation that you like, they will be or forever linked to the specific record of the rope or any kind of mooring equipment, and whatever it was linked with. And eventually, it's there for you to find after how long you like it. So I don't know, Michael, have I answered your question?
Well, if you want to come in live, Michael, we can do that. But, yeah. Let's see if Michael has any extra comments to make.
I think if I can just add to that, a lot of the rope manufacturers have produced sample mooring system management plans, line management plans, as a means of getting ship owners to buy their products, obviously. But the OceanManager product is independent of rope manufacturers, and it does have the ability to allow us to upload photographs to the system, so that you can, during normal inspections or any particular incidents of damage that a rope may suffer, and those photographs could be forwarded to the equipment manufacturers to get their opinion about it.
Well, I think we've got Michael, if your microphone should be working now, if you'd like to add any more to your question. Okay, nothing for the moment, but can you speak, Michael? But maybe just one question while we try and bring Michael on. So one of the big advantages is not losing your data as well with this, I suppose, because you're keeping it in a single place where you can store everything, isn't it?
Not losing your data and having everything in one central platform. Because imagine that you're sending me a report, the vessel doesn't have internet at the moment, or I have been doing another Excel spreadsheet at the moment, it's somewhere lost on my desktop. As you probably noticed before, my desktop is a mess. So by doing that, you have a single point of information, which will be later on linked with other OceanManager solutions, or perhaps other third-party applications that we could find the benefit for.
Okay, Michael, do you want to try and speak again if your sound works? Or no. There's another question coming from Veronica Aspeland, who's talking about a snapback arrestor device. I guess that sounds like a technology device from the sound of it. I don't know if you've heard of this. And
to be honest, I haven't, but I will definitely look into it.
Oh,
thank you, Veronica.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's a lot of complicated management, which all these processes are doing.
When we started that, we ventured that journey and we saw the problem, the depth that it's going, it's unbelievable. Even though it's an ancient art, as Steve mentioned, it's there is a lot of things that you can do to reduce risk. Now, for example, obviously, other people have already started in a different approach, which we can all work together, in a more holistic solution.
Wow, Veronica, I think she's the business manager at Williamson Group. I think so. Maybe she's something she's tried out. And yeah. Should we try Michael once more? Do you want to see if your mic comes on?
Oh.
No.
All right.
There's some technical problem there. There was some. Well, I suppose we need the shipping industry to take this issue seriously, and it looks like there's a product coming out to do it, and it's very important.
If I can just sort of interject there, snapback arresters have been around for a little while now, and Williamson certainly have a vested interest in them because they manufacture them or they sell them. What it is, it's a energy absorbing core which sits within the mooring rope. So if the outer strands of the mooring rope break, the snapback arrestor absorbs the snapback forces, again, transforming them from a potentially deadly snap to the rope just sort of collapsing rather than snapping back with force, which is where the danger lies.
Oh, so we have another question here from Priya, who's asking, is all the information on the portal entered by the crew, or is anything auto-populated from sensors?
We don't have a sensors link at the moment, but if this information can be exported in any kind of document form, either a notepad or Excel, then this can be imported back into our system. But it is definitely something we could look into the future.
I mean, it's a very manual thing, reporting when you use the ropes and what they look like, I suppose.
You know, especially when it comes to sensor, it's not an easy thing because there are a lot of companies doing their sensors. Sometimes the new vessels are coming with sensors already in place, but when you go third party, you put a brand A in your electrical engine, then you go somewhere brand B for your, I don't know what else component, and then you have to make them all speak together, which is not always an easy thing to do. However, you know, this is just me talking about it, but it's definitely one of the fields that we would like to also dip into in the future.
Well, you mentioned at the beginning of your talk, Stylianos, how many installations you had. I didn't quite catch it. I think you said 1,000.
1,000, more than 1,200 actually at the moment.
And that's ships or companies?
That's ships actually.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like to comply with TMSA, you probably need something like this, or it's very difficult to do it without something like this, isn't it?
It is, but you know, as usual, they require you to do it. They don't care how you do it. So now we're just trying to make the digital solution to help you. Otherwise, yeah, they were always in one form or another, written or Excel, you know, being maintained or monitored.
Oh, and do you have a means of exporting the data out of your system if companies don't like to feel tied to using something, do they?
Of course. You know, there is always an export mechanism in place. The data belong to the client at the end of the day.
Well, there's another question coming in from Scott Campbell of Witherby, which I haven't actually been able to read because it just came in. But he says, do you feel seafarers getting involved in the design of mooring areas and systems on new build vessels would remove some of the risks to seafarers? I've worked on vessels with very poorly designed mooring stations. Well, we're getting into naval architecture now. Maybe for Steve, do you want to?
I think that's Steve's field, for sure.
Yeah, it's obviously having input from experienced seafarers is always beneficial. You know, people who understand the process and the problems that that the industry faces in all areas, not just in the design of mooring operations. But generally, you see the designs evolved based on regulations that come out, which are either SOLAS, class requirements, or the requirements of external bodies such as OCIMF.
Oh, that's good. So we have Veronica Aspelund from Willardson now. If you want to speak, you're on mute at the moment, I think. Oh, there we go. I can see you. Oh.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carl. Thank you to the panelists. And as you said, Steve, correctly, that the snap arrestor is something that was developed by Wilhelmsen Ship Service. But the main thing is actually for the safety of the seafarers. So what we chose to do is that we used 7 years of the development to have the snap arrestor in the ropes, but we didn't take any patent on it because we want also the other manufacturers in the industry to come with solutions that will prevent or at least reduce the accidents that are happening, because the statistics that you showed in the beginning, these are terrifying. This is something that can be reduced or avoided, and we have to take the responsibility of the manufacturers and do something with it. So this snap arrestor that we developed was tested in real life conditions, and it's also verified by DNV. So we are trying to pushing the industry and to show that there are possibilities. And we have already hundreds of vessels using this technology already.
Is it is the technology applicable to one type of mooring manufacturer, or at the moment, or have other manufacturers taken it on board?
Well, the technology that we developed it for our ropes, because there is where we have the knowledge about the production and all the recipes. But having said that, so we use it both for the mixed composition ropes and for the HMPE ropes. And as you correctly said, it's the core of the rope that is resting basically in the rope and waiting until it gets deployed when the rope breaks, because as we know that we can do a lot with the inspections and with defining properly the retirement criteria. But if the load on the rope is exceeding the residual strength of the rope will break. And this will happen in bad weather, or if there are some unforeseen conditions with the swells and so on. So we know that if this happens, we need to do something. This technology can be also taken over by the other players in the industry. There is certainly the possibility, because these ropes that I mentioned, the mixed composition, the HMPE ropes, are the most common ropes also for other manufacturers.
Yeah, have you seen any of the other manufacturers showing interest in it, or?
Yes, I have seen 2-3 manufacturers having some marketing material on similar solutions. I have not seen them having the verification from a third organization or some third party and the real life test. And this is what I want to make really, really clear, because testing at the testing bench in a laboratory is one thing. But another thing is when you take it in the real conditions, when you have the swells, when you have the angles, the high speed and all of that. So this is very crucial that the solutions are tested in the real life conditions. And also if it's a DNV or Lloyd's or somebody else goes through the risk assessment to make sure that the solutions, because I'm sure that there are also other solutions and other things that we can do, not only the solution that we presented on the market, but make sure that this really works in the real life conditions, so we do not have this false feeling of security.
Okay, we're just coming up to the hour now, so maybe we'll take a minute each to have some last word.
Can I just add a quick something to that, Veronica? Do DNV have a standard against which they verified your product?
No, it's basically an assessment that you go through, and at the end is the certificate of new technology, because as you know, they are type approval and the standards for existing products. But since this is a new product, that we are creating the assessment together with the DNV. So I believe that when we are through the whole assessment, then there is a process for verifying the next solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. Well, we're just coming up to the hour, so maybe Stylianos and Steve, do you want to take 1 minute to give some passing thoughts to leave people with, and then we'll finish?
Yeah, I'll go first and then leave the final word to Stelios. My whole focus in everything I do is the safety of the seafarers on board ships today, and ensuring that they get home safely, whether that's doing things the old school way or using information technology, using modern methods to make their life on board easier and safer, then it has its place in the industry. And I think what we've developed with OceanManager, with the mooring system management plan and the line management plans to ensure that all this information is readily available, will enhance safety by having all the records readily available in one place, rather than, as Stelios showed, company forms and emails and spreadsheets, which tend to get lost or filed away somewhere, never to see the light of day again.
Okay, we'll take 1 minute, Stylianos.
All right. So yeah, as Captain Steve said, first of all, I would like to thank everybody who participated, and Veronica and Michael who joined us in the panel. So OceanManager's mission is to help in safety. That's what we want to do. It's not just sell a service. We partner with other experts and other companies as well. So feel free to check us out. We hope that we're making a difference in the industry. We offer 3 months free trial for everything. So, because we want the people to see if they can actually work with the system, not just married and then get a divorce or something. So that's from me. Thank you, everybody.
Well, we have a hugely important issue that needs a lot more attention. So I'll pass back to Vida now. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. So you've heard Captain Steve Blair and Stylianos Dimas from OceanManager sharing their advice on mooring equipment compliance with digital technology that they created. And next Tuesday, we are hosting a webinar on new tracking and monitoring technology for fleet managers. Feel free to join us. And now Digital Ship is signing off until next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.